The Last, Maandishi. An Epic Fantasy, by Devon Woods. Read, by Roswell Albright. In the land of ineptitude, on neutral ground, things appear normal, in Harvest Mound. The capital city, half hidden by earth, concealing its architectural worth. The artisan woodwork, on archways and paths. Maandishi engravings, repel nature's wrath. Most of the rooftops are covered by knolls, while others have shingles millennia old. Deep in the grand meadow, the mound kisses sky, surrounded by flax, barley, and rye. Miles of farmland and lush meadows green, ending somewhere far beyond what is seen. The brilliant blue sky touches every horizon. The panoramic view is quite mesmerizing. Old Rahisi Poem. Chapter 1, Part 1. 7 months later. A stratus cloud hovers nearby, while the rest of the huge, blue sky is relatively clear. The morning sun stirs the aroma of grains and grasses of the surrounding meadow. The mild temperature greets 3 wagon caravans arriving at a visitor checkpoint, along the western border of Harvest Mound. Roughly 75 weary Rahisi passengers exit the wagons, some staggering too close to the wagon team of giant, greenish-brown archosaurs. Emerged during darkfell, these are some of the few beasts that could be tamed. Nevertheless, the fearsome reptiles bear forked tongues and dagger teeth while hissing at anyone trudging too close. The checkpoint only consists of 5 Hiwa guards, a dogwood tree, 3 large wagons, and a wire fence heading off in both directions along the borderline. The Rahisi people live in relative peace, with no blood ties to the 6 Wagenzi. Most are crafters and farmers, making a modest living through export, bartering, and labor. It affords them modest conveniences, soft spun pants, shirts, dresses, and skirts. The shades of beige, browns, and whites are old and customary. While some find them dreary, most feel the style is unique to the region, and rarely deviate without a good reason. Their burnt sienna skin tones come in various shades, and their thick, fleecy hairstyles likewise vary. Considered inept by the ruling stewardship, they rely on the Nadra Guild to take the lead in providing protection, counsel, and other fine works. Life could be worse in the heart of the meadow, where witty, young women tease bashful young fellows. Though many long to see foreign lands, and roam Nyumbani from end to end, their hearts remain tethered to Harvest Mound. Favoring one another as close relatives, the plate-armored Hiwa guards are having trouble getting the Rahisi travelers situated for entry registration. Each guard is bald, with sandy skin, and subtle differences in facial hair. At any glance, they appear to be very hard men. The shortest of them, called Tawala, is overcome with frustration as he yells to a guard much larger, and much older, lumbering over from under the dogwood tree. "Kali, this is your specialty." Despite being a foot taller than everyone, and having a grey beard and sideburns, Kali still has an uncanny resemblance to the 4 other guards, as if he could be their uncle, or father. The intimidated crowd pauses in total. "Listen, you have heard the rumors, you have read the stories, you know what can happen. Just have a good reason for being here before you reach this line." His voice is stern and deep, despite his jaded attitude, and the warning breaks every protocol for welcoming visitors. If you have none, or if you are not on the passenger manifests, just walk away now, no questions asked. He ends with a dismissive hand gesture, as he returns to under the dogwood tree. Under the dogwood tree. That's where my heart will be. Under the dogwood tree. That's where my lover sleeps. Old Rahisi Poem. Hapless and embarrassed, several passengers peel off from the crowd, and wander off into different directions away from the checkpoint, and its broad road leading to the giant mound in the distance. The rest begin presenting their papers to the guards, and upon entry they begin boarding the wagons that will be heading directly for Basetown East, the busiest of the sprawling suburbs surrounding Harvest Mound. About half of the crowd has been granted entry, when Nuru finally presents his invitation, and impresses Tawala. Looks like Jaziri has connections all over the meadow. Here is another one of his guests. He announces to the others, while giving Nuru a look that is both accepting and suspicious. Finally, he dismisses him with a nod towards 3 other people standing near a separate, smaller wagon, across the road from the others. You will be taken up top directly, he informs Nuru, after returning the invitation. Nuru assumes, up top, means the exclusive top-tier district of Harvest Mound. He is an average-looking man, of medium build, with umber skin, and short, woolly hair, twisted a particular way. He joins the 3 others, who remain fixed on him as he approaches. The 4 of them wear the traditional brown traveler's poncho, made of heavy fleece, along with matching trousers, animal skin boots, and canvas haversacks. They greet one another with polite, but cautious nods. Double a wager, if another joins us? Kiburi asks Hazira, as Nuru stands by. And tempt fate? I expect 12 shards in full. Hazira's curt response comes with a grin. How do you all know Jaziri? Roho politely asks them. Oldest of the 4 and healthy in size, she seems more nervous than cautious. Her linen head wrap matches her poncho, her brown skin is smooth, and her facial features are bold and beautiful, with minimal signs of aging aside from the look in her light brown eyes. She realizes everyone's reluctance, and sheds her own reluctance, before sharing. Well, Jaziri was only a follower when we met. He would make sure I traveled safely between the Enclave and my home in Basetown Northwest. As he gained status with the Nadra, he had less time for escort service. That might have been around the time he and I first crossed paths. Hazira speaks up. Her sienna skin is smooth, and her dense hair grows long, free, and defies gravity. She is healthy and fit, and slightly taller than Roho, though shorter than the others. To find fault with her aesthetics would be a petty reach. It was not too long after he became an attendant in the Enclave, she continues, reminiscing with pride. At the time, I was a merchant, small trinkets and things. Both he and I uncovered a scheme to extort merchants for higher permit taxes. The guild assistants involved were expelled from the Nadra. Kiburi is impressed by the anecdotes, despite the subtle head nod. He wears a faint, beige linen turban, wrapped in a way customary to Hiwa dignitaries. Creases in his sienna skin, and slivers of grey in his beard suggests that youth has long since left him. However, he is in exceptional shape by common standards, and only the most finicky would consider him unattractive. I met Jaziri on his first assignment as an assistant in the guild, he explains. I was harvesting resin, just outside of Edge Meadow, when his caravan was ambushed by Chini bandits. It turns out they were after the information in Jaziri's possession. For some reason, I helped fight them off long enough for him to escape, he concludes, pretentious in tone. His anecdote would seem embellished, were it not for Nuru's account. That must have been when I met Jaziri. That information he possessed gave my people in the labor camps hope. He managed to help me, and a few others flee to the Umbao vassal towns in the south. The Chini spread lies. This is our land. The outburst draws their attention to the uptick in commotion at the checkpoint. They see Kali, lumbering back over to a man and woman, of mediocre means, being interviewed by Tawala. They both wear similar dark robes, and chain-linked necklaces made of weathered, animal hide. Leather chains, eh? You consider yourselves true Rahisi, I gather? Tawala marginalizes their beliefs with his condescension. Ignoring his question, the man responds, we're visiting family on the first tier. He speaks with his head held high, despite his nerves being clearly on edge. The crowd settles down again, as Kali approaches and is handed their travel papers.
You know there are still restrictions in place.
A never-jaded Carly pleads with open hands. Have we no rights? We are citizens of the meadow too. The woman responds with righteous indignation. Carly calls for the passenger manifest with an empathetic gesture, and it is quickly placed in his hand. We aren't on the manifest. We filled 2 empty seats. At the last waypoint in Sapling, the man stutters an already futile explanation. The waste of Carly's time causes him to deflate, with a deep exhale. He pauses for a thought, before his final judgment.
I'm glad you said that. It narrows your options down to 2. You can be planted in the ground for Kalima, or, you can tell me that the reason you are here, is not worth dying for, and walk away.
Furious, they both begin walking away from the border.
I need to hear you say it.
Carly insists, followed by the audible shing of long swords being drawn. They turn to see Carly, flanked by the other guards. Left with no choice, they both reply with disdain. The reason we are here, is not worth dying for. For now. The man mutters, after turning away and storming off. After a few steps, he hears a gasp from the crowd, and turns to see the woman running full speed past the borderline. The man whispers in terror, his instinct telling him not to give chase. The indifferent guards sheath their swords, and watch her run. Carly returns to under the dogwood tree, shaking his head. As she passes Jaziri's friends, the woman is struck by a bolt of lightning, that is both deafening and blinding, coming from the hovering stratus cloud above. There are several screams, among the collective gasp, by the remaining passengers. Jaziri's friends cower, and cover their ears in fright. They will probably never forget the look of determination on the woman's face, before she is destroyed. The man is frozen with fear and anger, by the life-changing moment. Tuwala gives a confirmation wave to the stratus cloud above, where several Hiwa guards can now be seen stationed. They acknowledge with a routine hand signal in return. The ground-level guards continue to register passengers, and it would seem as if nothing had happened, were it not for the passengers' eerie silence, and pieces of charred, gelatinous flesh, scattered on the road near the wagons. Knowing there will be no immediate recourse, the man finally runs away, his face covered in tears of rage. Tuwala is fuming over what has transpired. Getting back to the task at hand, he waves a passenger through, while snatching travel papers from the next. You people seem to forget, we get paid to uphold your laws. He scolds the remaining passengers in general. But instead, you abuse the laws, and stoke the flames of insurrection. A bold voice breaks the timid silence. Tuwala's disdain boils. Who said that? He demands, while scanning the group through squinted eyes, seeking to exhibit his authority, over whomever dared to rebuttal. A moment of confusion causes him to adjust his vision, after a hooded figure seems to materialize among the passengers. He recognizes the rare kifisha, a velvety, full-length cloak, with the pearlescent color of an overcast sky. Tuwala's attitude adjustment is immediate, as the figure approaches. I did. The bold voice responds as if accepting the challenge. He removes the hood of the cloak, revealing his weathered, raw umber skin, and bold facial features. The hair atop his head is cut at right angles to form a cube, while the sides of his head are shaved bald. A red eye lines the base of his hair where it meets the scalp. As he moves to the front of the line, the pigment of his cloak turns black with red trim, matching his hair. Upon recognition, the rest of the guards quickly share Tuwala's new attitude, teetering between respect and fear. The passengers make way, as enthusiastic whispers swell among them. He's returned. It's Yukaidi. The whispers dissipate, as a random voice follows, and justice. We hope you've enjoyed this part of The Last Maandishi, by Devon Woods. This has been Roswell Albright. Until next time, be well.